a vindictive person who didn't get cast in the show set a bunch of fireworks off at closing night behind a soundboard when we were doing a show, and we had to evacuate the theater, and we came back on, and that person went to jail, and the show must go on.
Hi, I'm Dave, and this is The Stage Page. Welcome to episode 3 of War Stories. This week I'm talking to my friend Casey, who's a working actor. He's been in about 100 productions up to this point. He's also a working voice actor, so I'll leave some of his contact info in the description below. If you have any voice acting needs, reach out to him. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. If you like the video, please consider subscribing or sharing somewhere. Enjoy. I'm trying to make the tradition of starting these off with a story that involves both of us. So I thought I'd go with the obvious story. We were somewhat recently, I guess that's a relative term, in Guys and Dolls together. And there's a nice little scene where I, as Big Julie, like to roll some dice and kind of cheat in the way that I roll dice. And so...
I forgot about this. This is amazing. Keep going.
These big old dice, way oversized, and I would roll them on the ground, and then I would stomp on them to get them to stop at a certain number, because, of course, that was the choice I made. And so during a performance, I roll the dice, I stomp on them like I have every time before, only this time I hit it right at an angle that one of the die just shot right out into the audience. And being the consummate professional that I am, my immediate reaction was, literally, I pointed at it and laughed. And then I turned to you and just went, it was a 7. I saw it, it was a 7. And then you kindly picked up the ball.
Gave me, I think it was even you who were just like, pick them up. And I was like, okay.
I don't think I even gave you that much. I think you just were like you went down to the audience, somebody had picked it up, and you're just like, please, thank you. Yeah, I tried to add in a little line to our moment, because then at the end, like when I'm all threatening you, I tried to be like, how can I tie it back? And I was like, and then that guy, and I pointed to whoever handed you the dice, and I was just like, they won't even be able to help you then. And I was like, did that work? And there was just utter silence, and I was like, damn it.
If I could piggyback off of that, I definitely was thinking about Guys and Dolls, because it's almost like a badge of honor at that theater that at some point during the opening weekend, somebody's mic is going to go out. And of course, mine went out on opening night. And instead of being a professional about it, by like, cool, I have a microphone, here we go, I turned it into a whole bit where I was either yelling my lines or I was like crooning into my microphone when I had to sing. And God bless her, my Adelaide, I was playing Nathan Detroit, and Sarah Jeanette Dahman, amazing actress. She has the line later in the show where she asks Sarah Brown, like, oh, did you see my fiance, Nathan Detroit? And her line was originally, a darling little fellow with a cute mustache. And since I didn't have a mustache for the show, she changed it to a darling little fellow who speaks very emphatically. And that's also on brand for me. But every night when she says it, I'm doing this little bit, and then I have to run across the catwalk over the stage for a quick change. And I'm in the middle of doing that. And that night she decided to, after my mic went out and I had to use this handheld microphone, she had to say to my friend on stage playing Sarah Brown, a darling little fellow with a microphone. And I legitimately fell on the catwalk laughing, gasping for air while the audience was dying. And it took me like 30 seconds to like regain my composure and go, oh shoot, I'm in a quick change. And I like had to bolt. I have to say, like, I've done other shows with Dave and it's always a delight, but in Guys and Dolls in particular, when I knew you had moments to ad lib, I was so grateful. I was either completely off stage, not in the scene with you, or I knew there was another line coming in shortly. So my whole brain is just going, you just have to not break it, whatever the hell Dave is doing, for like 2 seconds and you're in the clear.
So funny you should mention that, because right after Guys and Dolls, I did Baskerville with Casey and some other people. And it turns out CST actually got reported for going too far off script in that show. So I think I can't remember if it was a fine or just a rap on the knuckles, but I actually got us in trouble because I ad-libbed too much.
Yep. And isn't that the job of us as actors, is to just get to that point right when you get that slap on the wrist that says, not cool, not cool. And okay, now I know where the limit is. Thank you.
Yeah. Now how can I just tiptoe just back across the line?
Yeah. And some of my favorite stories are not even things that happened to me. They're just things I got to be a part of and witness on stage. And they were a great reminder of like what you do when the show absolutely has to go on. One of my favorite instances of that was doing a production of Showboat, the big 3-hour-long musical over at Village Theater. Lovely production with Megan Parker that we worked with before. And I'll never forget the night that the power went out. Yeah, the power went out in the middle of this big monologue that was being performed by Captain Andy, played by Larry Alberts. If there's any big podcasting radio fans out there, he's the voice of Harry Nile. And he's doing this big monologue. The power completely goes out in the entire theater, and audience, actors all together, just one big, ugh. But without missing a beat, Larry Alberts, still in character, just goes, "Stay with me, folks. This is where it gets good." And he starts like doing like little sound effects and character voices until flashlights get handed off from the crew to people on stage who are pointing like 12 flashlights at him. He finishes the monologue, then we hold the show until we get power back on. And that was just a great setting of a standard of just like, no, you make it work. You make it work until the stage manager tells you to hold it.
Thank God.
You and Amy were talking about To Kill a Mockingbird last time. When I was 12 years old, I got to play Charles Baker Harris, Dill, in a production of To Kill a Mockingbird. And I remember there was the courtroom scene. What is the name of the black man who's on trial?
Tom.
Yeah. So Tom was at the stand, and Atticus had just done his questioning of the witness. And then the prosecutor's supposed to come in and be very unfair. And then Dill is supposed to be crying, and he's supposed to have this big intense scene with Scout up in the rafters. And our judge, after Atticus questioned Tom, just says, "Thank you, Tom. You may sit down now." And I had like 5 seconds of panic when I realized, wait, I'm supposed to be crying after this. Why would I be crying if the prosecutor wasn't mean to Tom? And I'm like legitimately having an anxiety attack and like breathing into a paper bag on stage. And then God bless the prosecutor, who like after like 5 to 10 seconds of silence, he just suddenly went, "Objection, Your Honor. Prosecution deserves a chance to question the witness." And the judge just had a moment where he went, "Good point, prosecutor. You may proceed." One of my other favorite stories, a lot of them are from like high school years, high school theater. Lord knows all sorts of fun things happened there. There was doing Into the Woods when way too late into the run, somebody pointed out, Casey, you really should wear 2 pairs of tights because you're wearing a dance belt and nothing else. And yeah, those tights are incredibly see-through. And I went, thanks. There was a time I was doing Blythe Spirit. I was playing Charles, the lead. And I had to do a quick change. And I was wearing these pants, and I had a white dress shirt that I forgot to zip up my fly about. I've gotten much better about zipping my fly consistently over the years, but fly was down, big old tail, shirt tail was hanging out of it. And this was at the student matinee, of course. And there I had this giant, basically it looked like a giant erection just hanging out. And the soothsayer, Madame Arcadi, at one point, she's reading across the ball and going, "The white bandage, look out for the white bandage." And my next line, without even realizing my fly thing, I went, "I don't have a white bandage." And of course, everybody just loses their damn mind.
It's funny you mentioned Into the Woods. The one time I've ever run fly for a show was for a production of Into the Woods at a community college. And we we got to the part where Rapunzel has her moment, and then she gets squashed by a giant. And we had this thing. She screams, she goes off stage, and then you hear rumbling, and then you hear a giant roar, and then you hear like a squish sound effect. And that night, our sound op accidentally hit the wrong button, so you got Rapunzel scream, you got giant stepping, and then you got a cow moo. And the audience laughs, and then the sound op is like, oh crap, I got to do it right. And so they hit the moo again. So just like a weird echoed moo was the end of Rapunzel for that performance.
This one is from when I was doing a pantomime. And for those of you who don't know, a British pantomime is basically taking a famous children's story and you do 2 acts. There's a lot of like jokes for little kids, a lot of slapstick humor, a lot of physical comedy, and then there's a lot of like adult jokes that go like over the kids' heads, like in Animaniacs. And we were doing Aladdin, and in the original story of Aladdin and 1001 Arabian Nights, Aladdin has 2 genies, one in the lamp, one in this ring that he has that was a gift. And I've had issues in the past, we all have, about forgetting to bring a prop on stage. And Amy Paxton talks about like, oh, I just need to go run and get the prop. I don't like to stop the pace of the show. I like to try and do the scene without the prop if I can. A perfect example is this, where I'm supposed to have lost everything, but I still have the genie in my magic ring. But I forget to bring the ring on. So I go, cool. How do I not stop the show? I'm gonna, oh, you guys, the ring. And this is in front of a bunch of children. The magic ring, but the ring is in my pocket. Here, let me rub the magic ring in my pocket. And as I'm doing it, without giving you a physical gesticulation in front of a bunch of children, I'm like, I'm never gonna do a children's theater ever again, am I? No, probably gonna get a restraining order for this action.
Yeah, the only I only had one flub follow me for a while, and it was in high school. I was in a production of Hello Dolly. I was playing Horace, and we were coming up to Act 2, and I had a costume change, and I was being a high schooler and putting it off to the last minute, and then apparently I put it off too long because we got places called, and I had like no pants on, and I'm like rushing around trying to get dressed, and so that made it up to the stage manager who was speaking into the box. So for the rest of the show, at the end of the first act would be places, Dave Loggy, put your pants on. And then that actually ended up in the yearbook that year in high school.
Hello Dolly is a show I've never gotten the chance to do, but I've heard great stories about Hello Dolly. I got to witness one time in a performance. Someone did a version of Hello Dolly, I won't say in what theater, where they decided they were going to add to the ambiance by having ensemble members narrate what was going to happen in the next scene. Like it was super weird.
Yeah.
And they would say like, and so it was that Horace Vandergelder would then progress from your, just weird. But my favorite thing ever, that's just one of the things that sticks with you, was the time when one of the elderly members of the ensemble came in, and he was a veteran of the stage, and he just legitimately went, and so it was that Barnaby and Cornelius would go to I've Gone Up. So I'm waiting for the day where I have the guts, the chutzpah, the call it what you will, the gravitas to just go, is this the dagger I see before I've gone up? And just walk off the stage. I think one of the most cursed shows personally in theater, besides the Scottish play, if you are in musical theater, the most cursed show out there is Fiddler on the Roof. Because every single person I know who has done that show, including myself, has horror stories about Fiddler on the Roof. I've heard stories about a fiddler who was doing theater in the round and was like up on the scaffolding in the Midwest in the middle of summer, and they left their violin up there. And for those of you who knows what happens to violin and string instruments in heat, when completely out of tune, didn't tune it up before the show started. So legitimately started that beautiful, and instead it sounded like the conductor tried to who was on keys tried to like help her out with like a synthesizer violin, and all he could get was French horn. So Tevi just came out like but Fiddler for me, I will always think of when I was 14 years old and I did what is now referred to as the matinee from hell. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong in this matinee. We had a bunch of understudies on, including one for Fruma Sarah. And, you know, in the super wordy parts of musical theater done by high school kids, there's always a chance that they will get the words completely wrong. And in the dream sequence with the big scary ghost from Sarah, she's supposed to sing a line and the ensemble has to say whatever 4 syllables she just said afterwards. And it's supposed to be, what is this about your daughter marrying my husband? Yes, her husband. This understudy came out, what is this about your husband and my German Shepherd, German Shepherd? 14 years old. I had my pair of glasses. I was playing Model the Tailor, and my pair of glasses completely broke in my pocket. I had to go off stage and like try to tape them back on before coming back on for my next scene. And I could only like get like a bundle of Scotch tape there. So the whole time I'm just doing the scene like this with a giant bundle of Scotch tape in my eye. I go off stage during a little scene before I come back on, tape it back up. And I'm just like, cool, that's really secure. I should have been on stage 45 seconds ago. And of course, the 2 actors, one of whom is a very prestigious television star at NYU and as graduate of NYU, they just finished their scene and they just dimly went. For 45 seconds, which in theater is an eternity. Mm. That was also the first time I like broke so hard in the middle of a stage freeze that and nobody would move on with the scene, those who had lines, but they just watched me completely collapse in this stage freeze while my Hana was like gripping my hand, like, I need you to get your together, Casey Reha. This was also the show where the wheel came off of the cart that Tevye has to carry off at the end. Oh. And the fiddler always gets on the cart at the end and plays that final note. But instead, she's like, she can barely get herself onto the cart. And she's like trying to like worry with this awkward 1-wheel cart as she's like trying to play this last note. But my favorite thing is at the end of Act 1, where the entire wedding has been completely disarrayed by the Russian soldiers. And Tevye is supposed to take this pillow and drop it down on the ground and like look up at God and go, why? Just gesture to it. But what instead is that he, for some reason today, because everything went wrong, he takes his pillow and it's a little off from where his spotlight is. And he goes, and that's the matinee from hell.
Wow. All of that in one performance.
In what? Oh, but I almost forgot. We were talking about like dice and it's slipping. Normally we're supposed to do at the end of Sunrise Sunset. Model has supposed to have this glass that was plastic in a bag that's supposed to be the crushing of the glass and the Mazel Tov. And instead, somebody forgot the bag that day, so it's a plastic cup. And on my shoe, I catch the edge of it and it just goes into the orchestra pit, and everyone just kind of looks at it for a second, and then I'll go, Mazel Tov.
Well, that's an omen.
That is an omen. The other thing that popped in my head is most of us have like horror stories, which are the why do we still do this, or they're horror stories like we can laugh about this now.
Yeah.
But I also think about the magic that theater alone brings. I was doing a production of a parody show of Indiana Jones which was based off of the first 3 movies of the Indiana Jones series. Well, let's be honest, they're the only 3 movies in the Indiana Jones series.
Yeah.
And I'm playing Indy, and we're supposed to like do the end of the show, and then we're supposed to do this big rousing number at the end that's an original song, and we get the audience clapping and having a good time. And the power went completely out in the theater. We had emergency generators go on. Those failed as well. And we're in the middle of our final scenes, and we get to the final number, and the main guy who's in charge of it, beautiful Mark Ciano, he came out and he's like, guys, we want to send you home on a high note here. Can we have everybody turn on their flashlights on their cell phones? And I felt like a rock star. And if you look in the recesses of my Instagram, you can find this video of me singing this song, us all acoustically on the song while everyone's lighting us up like fireflies. And it was just one of those moments I could probably put onto one hand of, this is the reason why I do this work.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Casey, for sharing stories with me and a few other people over the YouTubes here.